Thank you so much, Emily. Merci beaucoup. So it's a pleasure to be here. And indeed, it's time to talk 6G. 6G is on, and we dare say 6G. It's not just 5G plus anymore. Why? Because we at Nokia Bell Labs, by the way, Nokia Bell Labs is the fun part of Nokia, the arm of research, industrial research and scientific research. So 6G is on in terms of research. We have had a lot of cool research activity now in the last 2 years, framing the lead questions and making sure we, from these questions, drive the research agenda, and jointly with a variety of distinct partners across industry and academia. And so what I'd like to explore with you all the next 15 or so minutes is what our vision is about. Vision for communications in the 2030s, Emily, indeed, the 6G era coming up. And having said all this, though, very importantly, 5G is on as well, and for another 8 years or so. And probably it's a good idea to start with a brief reflection on the now and next, rather than diving right away into what is beyond, namely 6G. So sharing with you all innovation now and next, 5G evolution. And of course, it starts with research out of Bell Labs, Nokia Bell Labs, in terms of key technology enablers that have helped us frame the standardization as well as the productization envelope as we now have started to aggressively and in an accelerated fashion to roll out. So we at Nokia in the meantime have won something like more than 100 commercial contracts with operators, not to mention the various contracts also with a variety of enterprise customers. But looking at technology enablers, so no surprise, it starts with 5G radio, new radio as we call it, the way we code, transmit bits over the air interface, channel coding, massive MIMO. So this idea of having phased arrays, hundreds of small radiating elements as we go forward. This notion of, we've heard previous speakers talk about cloud native transformation and truly IT-driven innovation. This, of course, links into what now increasingly is part of the 5G architecture, getting real. And many of these items, such as mobile edge cloud, access, agnostic core, driven out of Bell Labs, like going back into research from the last 5 and 10 years. And so way forward, big time is about now leveraging innovation beyond non-standalone. So the journey of 5G, as probably many of you are aware, for the right reasons, has started with mobile broadband, right? More bandwidth. And that's powerful, nothing wrong with that. It's the business that operators know well. But now the time has come to really move to standalone solutions in conjunction with 5G core, and thereby at the same time opening up new opportunity, building on technology enablers for industrial, IoT, 5G and unlicensed spectrums, and particularly also in conjunction with private networks. So when you look at the journey from a standards angle, so you see kind of the indicative 3GPP standard roadmap of sorts. So what you see is release 15, release 16, release 17, kind of indicative roadmap as a function of time. And the key thing to keep in mind at this stage is 5G rollout in full swing, 5G standalone is available, but there's a lot more around the corner, and particularly of relevance. And this links into the keynote that Pari, Zinnov CEO, had given earlier today, linking into very important opportunity for a variety of enterprise in their digital transformation. So URLLC enhancements, meaning ultra reliable and low latency enhancement for industrial IoT, as well as we move forward, new IoT profiles and a variety of automation aspects as well. So just to make this real, release 16, think of machine-to-machine critical communications, think of collaborating robots, think of wireless HMI, human-machine interface, think of safety parameters in new ways. So there's a whole range of themes that link into 5G evolution as we keep moving. Now, the other piece of innovation, and that's also very important and often overlooked when people look at 5G evolution and beyond, is truly new ways of creating technology and sourcing code and leveraging R&D in a co-sharing and open source fashion. We at Nokia Bell Labs are strongly engaged here in conjunction with a variety of Linux Foundation vehicles, just to mention a few, LF networking, Edge, but also AI, very powerful vehicles. And then, of course, I think there's a lot of coverage in the press now. Recently, we at Nokia clearly engaged in a lead role with this whole idea of Open RAN, of disaggregating the architecture more, and with flexible ways of fronthaul split, as well as open interfaces. And then, of course, cloud native compute foundation, various vehicles such as OpenStack, very powerful enablers on the journey of 5G evolution and beyond. And all of this, and this is where it's getting interesting, it's not just about technology, but it's really about business and business impact. And here, indicatively, you see some of the lead examples as we look forward to power up as an industry, and out of Nokia in particular. So it starts with entertainment solutions, immersive gaming, whatnot, but all the way to intelligent traffic systems, cloud robotics, all kinds of augmented reality support enabled by 5G, and in particular also with 5G standalone, and therefore 5G core. What does 5G core, by the way, really give you is this notion of bearer independence, and therefore the beginning of an era that's really flow-centric, and that allows you to also then provision and provide dedicated slice, and therefore more efficient ways of sharing resource. So with this, let's move pandemic and beyond, 6G innovation to connect the world. So what is our vision at Nokia Bell Labs on 6G era communications for the 2030s? It really starts with this idea of connecting the worlds, right? Connecting the worlds, connecting the physical world, the digital world, and the biological world. And of course, all of this powered up by very transformational architectural and technology drivers. So the technology side really is about ubiquitous compute, which means that we would really move to an era where it's all about heterogeneous clouds in conjunction with millions of subnetworks and billions of sensors and devices. By the way, devices are likely to look different as well. We are likely to move away from the smartphones as we know today, rather to decomposed form factors. Some folks might have had antennas on their skin if they like it. From the ubiquitous compute angle, I think what is truly exciting is this whole idea of cloud capability discovery, flexible function placement, and all of this powering up, therefore, a new paradigm of both performance and flexibility, and last but not least, also energy efficiency. Then there's this dimension of precision and sensing, as well as actuation, very highly relevant for various sectors, various enterprises. And this is, I need to emphasize this, it's one of the truly transformational dimensions of what we think 6G will be about, namely co-designing systems for both communications and sensing purposes. We'll come back to this. Third component is about knowledge management, knowledge federation. It links into a distributed DNI data information architecture in conjunction with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And last but not least, it's about how we as humans interact with machines and learn from machines. It ties into knowledge management, but it's really about also human-machine interface. And all this, so our vision, connecting the worlds in conjunction with technology enablers, will then power up a variety of new use cases. And we need to be ready for the unknown. There are some cases that I think indicatively we can describe and we all look forward to. I definitely do. Looking at creating, consuming new digital worlds, it starts with this session. I mean, this session, first of all, is great. Thank you, Zinnov. But you know what? We need to have this like telepresence, holograph, interacting, virtual avatar kind of format. The sooner the better, so we get even better immersive, really mixed reality telepresence experience. And of course, such approach, like indicated here on a high level, creating and consuming new digital worlds will be very powerful also for a variety of industries and enterprise sectors. So mixed reality co-design, I think, will be very, very powerful in terms of productivity enhancement, as well as new ways of truly rewriting how industry works. Then the other bucket, just to highlight briefly, would be other bucket of use cases, augmenting our intelligence. So this is about learning with and from machines. You could also say it's like creating the sixth sense for humans. So it's a permanent AR, augmented reality overlay, and it also might include use case scenarios for health purposes, such as body monitoring and analysis. And last but not least, controlling the automatons, very powerful as well. Think of domestic robots, think of remote and self-driving scenarios, think of drones and robot swarms that we can use and employ in new ways. And coming back to domestic robots, by the way, that is also something of high relevance. Now, I'm based out of Munich, Germany. We have a lot of elderly people, especially at this time of the pandemic. I think it's a worthwhile objective to help them, the elderly, stay in their preferred environment at home, in their preferred environment for a longer period of time, and in a convenient way. So with this, let's look at the 6 key technologies for 6G. Just briefly, what are these? So AI, ML, air interface. So this is a powerful concept where we would not just employ machine learning for individual processing blocks, but really design, if you like, the physical layer itself. New spectrum technology is very powerful. Number 2, this is, probably you've heard about this, some public attention on it, leveraging spectrum even higher than 100 gigahertz. We call it terahertz spectrum. And this then, engineers love this. It's very powerful because we can start investigating, exploring from a research angle, new waveforms, suitable numerology, next generation massive MIMO file layer, also new means of sharing the spectrum. Number 3, key technology for 6G would potentially be network as a sensor. So this is about really co-designing networks for both communication and sensing purposes. Very powerful theme. Architecture would come next. So simplifying the architecture around core convergence, as well as this notion of going microservices. I think, Ram, you talked about this in your speech just a moment ago. Yes, indeed, it's part of way forward, and thereby de facto really converging what today is radio network and core network. Attributes of extreme connectivity, pushing the latency envelope even lower. We'll come back to this in just a moment. Likewise for extreme reliability and safety aspects. And then last but not least, yes, security and trust. For instance, how do you make sure that all these networks, especially the specialized ones for enterprise purposes, are really protected against jamming, for instance? So with this, a quick look at new requirements before we wrap this up. So new requirement set, you can see indicatively here a number of parameters where we truly envision and have the ambition to push the envelope. It's very important, though, to keep in mind you won't get all of these parameters at the same time, right? So let's keep in mind many of these come for very specialized, highly localized settings. But nonetheless, this is the ambition we have. And in the meantime, there is increasing level of consensus, also pre-competitive consensus. We at Nokia Bell Labs work with a variety of partners. By the way, in the European Union, as you may have read, we just went public with this. We just won a major call from the Commission. It's called HexaX, the lead project to really define what 6G is. And so I can share with you all that increasingly we have consensus with various partners, vendors, industry operators, alike. Like throughput, yep, we want to increase this, indeed, 100 gigabit per second and above. Latency reliability, as you can see, very, very high level of performance. We discuss scalar flexibility is another one. And this, of course, ties into very important objectives for society and mankind, right? Connecting the unconnected when you think global coverage. And also when you look at platform and services approach, this would open up opportunity to really tackle the long tail in new ways. Precision and accuracy ties into sensing. We discussed it. Centimeter level is what we would want to achieve. And then maybe the last area I'd like to highlight again in terms of requirement set, as we discussed to frame the research agenda for 6G for the next several years. It's really about this whole new level of relevance of new kind of devices, HMI, intuitive interfaces and subnetworks. So subnetworks, we expect millions of them, devices, billions, and many of them in disaggregated format. And with this, back over to you, Emily, and if there's time, I'll be delighted to take your questions. Retour à vous, Emily. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Dr. Volker. Thank you for that engrossing talk. Those were some amazing perspectives you left our audience with. I have a question. It took about like 5 years for 2G global deployment, whereas it took less than a year for 5G adoption. How far are we from 6G becoming mainstream, Doctor?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, very true. We've seen accelerated build out and rollout, and in many of the lead markets, and that's great news. At the same time, as I think I highlighted in my speech, keep in mind that what we've only seen the beginning of what 5G can do for society and the various business scenarios. So what we've rolled out so far is predominantly non-standalone solution, and therefore focused on mobile broadband. And so a lot of the potential associated with 5G, especially also for enterprise context, in conjunction with critical machines, in conjunction also with massive IoT, is still to come. So when you talk to most of the early adopters of 5G, we all agree that there's another 8 years or so with 5G evolution, and it'll be fun. At the same time, though, as with the previous Gs, now is the time to engage on research and make sure we are ready, like for dissemination, let's say 2025 timeframe, right? And then also making sure the best ideas make it into the standard and or make it to the market by suitable alternative means of co-creation and sharing.